This is your picture editing workshop with Adobe Premiere Pro Creative Cloud. So we are going to go ahead and get started and first begin with talking about your file management and how you are organizing all of your media on your computer and then on your external hard drive. So things to consider: you are required to have an external hard drive for our class. You are also required to have a memory card. So keeping in mind, the memory card is for your immediate shooting and filming or photographing. It is not for long-term storage. You're not going to want to work off that memory card. So that's why we have you work off of an external hard drive. So I'm going to go ahead and plug in my external hard drive right now. Now, if you need to format this drive, meaning if this is the very first time you are plugging in your hard drive, then that is something that you can find in another tutorial that I will provide. All right, but I'm not going to cover formatting the hard drive right now. What formatting does is it completely erases whatever is on your hard drive, and then it builds a new file structure for your computer to be able to access that drive. So obviously, I don't want to erase all the contents of my hard drive because I have a lot saved on there. So you would need to be starting from scratch with a brand new drive in order to format it. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about what we're going to do to first get started. Now, when you're working on a project, one of the first things you're going to do is you're going to go into your external hard drive. Now, I encourage you to work entirely off of this drive. I do not recommend that you store anything on your actual computer. I would definitely say to work off this drive. That way, in case something happens to your computer, say you spill water on it or a friend spills something on it or for some reason it just stops working, you can at least plug that hard drive into another person's laptop or a different computer workstation in COM and still be able to do all the work that you need to do. So here we go. So I have my external hard drive and I gave it a name. You can name yours whatever you want. I have a BU folder because I work on a lot of different things with this drive. And in my BU folder, I have each class that I have been teaching recently. So I'm going to go into FT201 Screen Language because that's what I'm currently teaching. This tutorial might be used for a different class, so if you're not in Screen Language, disregard. Okay, so we're going to go into this particular folder and I'm going to go into workshops because this is our picture editing workshop. So in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and make a new folder. You can also make a new folder if you don't happen to have this button right here. You can also go File, New Folder. All right, so let's go ahead and do this. Now I'm going to call this Picture Editing Workshop. All right, that way I have a specific folder for each project that I'm working on. So I'm going to put everything from my Premiere project is going to go into this folder. All right, so let's go ahead and first get Premiere set up here. Now, what we're going to do is I've already opened Premiere. It might take you just a few minutes for it to load up, but once it loads up, this is how it's going to look. All right, so first things first, you're going to go ahead and click on New Project. Okay, a lot of students accidentally again here, choose to leave their projects untitled, and you can see that right here at the top, and that is unfortunately not an option. Okay, because if you leave this untitled and for some reason you don't go in and properly set up the scratch disks for the autosave, right, or your previews, what ends up happening is they all end up overwriting themselves. So if you have a bunch of projects that are called untitled, you're going to overwrite all your preview files, all your render files, all your autosaves. So you cannot leave it untitled. Just being honest with you. So let's go ahead and call this KB Picture Editing Workshop. All right, and you could just call it Picture Editing Workshop if you want. I'm going to go ahead and call it KB just in case I have another version of this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Browse. And now what we're going to do is we are going to find a location. So if you come back here, see how it says location? That's where we're choosing to save this. So we're going to go into Browse. We're going to go into the hard drive. I'm going to go into BU, Screen Language, and I'm going to go into Workshop. So there's this whole file structure that you really need to follow. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there are really 5 steps you need to take, just to get your file in the right place. So we're going to go ahead and hit Choose because this is our project folder. We're going to hit Choose. Now, I clicked into this a second ago, and you need to click into this every single time you make a new project. You need to go into Scratch Disks. Now, most of yours will probably be defaulted to Documents, meaning that any video that you capture, right, will go into Documents. or any render previews or video or audio previews or any of those auto saves, you want that to actually go into this project folder where you are going to be working. Otherwise, it will end up in this Documents, Adobe Premiere Pro 2012, and it will end up in this autosave vault, and they will all be in here together. All right, and that's why if you save something with the same name, it's going to overwrite. All right, so you don't want to do that. You don't want it to be there. In case you ever have something happen to your computer, you want those auto saves to be on that hard drive. You want those render files to be on the hard drive. So that's what we're going to do. You want it to be a same as project all the way down here. You want to go through here and check off same as project, same as project, same as project. Mine's already selected, so. But you're going to go ahead and do that. All right. Now let's go ahead and go back to general. We'll just make sure this is totally fine. None of this is going to matter to us. All right, go ahead and click OK. All right. Now it is going to go ahead and create our project. Okay. Now every one of you may have a slightly different view in what you're seeing in terms of your layout. This is my layout that I really like to use. I've titled it, for the company that I work for, VPA Editing. Now you will probably not have this. You will probably just have these options in here. And it actually looks almost identical. All right, so this is the editing default. Okay, and so you can go ahead and use this if you like. In order to change the workspace, you just go into Workspaces, and then you can change whatever you would like. If you're working on audio, you can go ahead and click into audio, and it will actually have the audio mixer right here for you, or the mixer here. We just don't happen to have any media, so right now we can't see the mixer. Okay, so go ahead, go to Window, and let's go ahead and just click on Editing, and let's see what that looks like. All right, hopefully all of ours look the same. All right, so what you have right now is you have your source window wherever you can preview your clips, but we don't have any clips at the moment. You have your program window, which is everything that's on your timeline is going to play out right here in your final program. So what's playing in this window is your final video. And then you have your project window right here, which is where all your media will be. So you get to choose from all these different clips. They're going to be loaded up here. This is your tool palette right here, so you are able to make adjustments to anything that is on your timeline. And then this right here is actually your VU meter, your decibel meter here off to the side, so it's going to measure your sound as all your material plays back on your timeline. You will see these audio levels jumping up and down. All right, so that is the basic layout, and I actually have that for you as a handout, just so you can remember source, program, timeline, and project window. And then you also have your tool palette, and you have your sound meter, audio meter. There are other windows in here that you really don't need. Like if you click in here, you could see there are a ton of other things in here. The only other window you might be using is effects, because you may be able to pull in some audio transitions or some video transitions at some point. So that is a possibility. Up here you have effects controls, so once you apply an effect to your timeline, then you can actually control that effect up here. You might someday use the audio mixer and so on. Okay? I would discourage you from clicking on these up here. Occasionally there's a weird glitch that happens where everything kind of disappears, and it could just be that this is my version of Premiere, but every now and then when I click on this, everything kind of goes away. So I would encourage you to kind of use this Windows Workspaces and go into editing this way. And if there's a panel that you want to turn on that's not on, you can go ahead and turn it on. And all you have to do is just make sure this check mark is right next to it. Okay? If you do want to make any adjustments, all you have to do is go ahead and click on the line between, and you can get this really awesome bar, and you can alter your workspace. Okay? So that's kind of a little lowdown on the layout of how to use Premiere, kind of where things are as you are getting started. So let's go ahead and find our clips and put them in our folder. All right, and then we can go ahead and get started editing. So all the time when you are editing, you're going to need two Finder windows side by side. So we're going to go ahead and have one Finder window up. We'll go all the way in here. And then we're going to go New Finder Window. So we're going to go ahead and pull this up to the side. And now I'm going to go into Brooklyn, Actually, I'm pretty sure this is on Addison. BU, screen language, classes. It might actually be in workshops. So I have a couple different things in here. I have some different clips from a couple different student projects that we're going to be using. So let's go ahead and see what we want to use today. So we go to materials, we can do this. So here are some clips, photographs that are actually pretty cool from a former student's project. Now this is really an example of the portrait of a city. So our first montage project here that we're going to be doing. So these are some examples. My computer's just running slow at the moment. But I'm going to go ahead and bring these files in. So if I want to use all these picture files, one way you can do this, I'm going to make this window a little bit bigger here. One way you can do this is you can go to the top image, you can go all the way down to the bottom, hold down Shift and click the bottom, and then you can have all those be selected. You can also just click on one in this folder and hit Command A, and you will also be able to select all of those. So let's go ahead, and in here we're going to go ahead and make a new folder. You can go File, New Folder, and we'll say Pictures. All right. So we're just going to go ahead and copy these pictures over and onto our hard drive. So you all will probably download these pictures. They'll probably be in your downloads folder, and you'll have these. What you will need to do is the exact same thing I'm doing and copy them over into your picture editing workshop folder. Remember, you want everything to be off this hard drive. So we're going to go ahead and close out our second window, and I think I'm going to sneeze here. I apologize. We're going to go ahead and drag in. We want to get all these picture files, and we actually want to get them right in here where it says Import Media to start. Now, just really briefly, I want to introduce an idea for you, which is you can actually make folders inside your Premiere project all on your own. So see where it says New Bin? We're going to go ahead and make a new bin, and I'm going to call it Pictures. So you can actually bring in all those pictures right into a folder. So if we have that folder selected, we can go up here and go File, Import. But if you don't have this folder selected, all your images are just going to kind of be dumped into the main frame here. And we don't want that. We want it to go into this folder. So we're going to go Import, File, Import. We're going to go ahead and it actually automatically found that folder for me, but you're going to go into your hard drive, go into BU, screen language, classes, Action workshops, picture editing, pictures. All right, so I can now go Command A, I can select all those pictures. Now it's going to import all these pictures, and it may or may not take a second to load. And if you're having that problem and it seems like things are kind of running slow, there's going to be a load bar down here on the bottom right. Okay, so now the beauty of having a folder here is we can actually turn on and off our folder so that we could actually have multiple things in here. We could have audio, we could have titles. You're going to end up with a title. Oh, no. All right, so see, accidentally I went too fast and it made these bins inside my other folder. I don't want that. So here we go. Close pictures. I'm going to make another bin, and it's going to be called titles. Okay, you could call it graphics, whatever you want. Now for this project, we actually don't have any audio. All right, but we're going to go ahead and make a title. So let's, just for now, I'll get rid of the auto, and we're just going to work with titles. Something that would be kind of cool though is make a new folder, and you can call this timelines. All right, so these are different timelines that you're going to end up having down here in your actual timeline window. So let's go ahead and click on timelines, and let's see what happens here. We're going to go File, New, and we're going to make a new sequence. Okay, it's basically what a timeline is. Okay, now what you want to do is you want to actually go through, and we're going to pick a very specific timeline. We're going to go in here to Canon XF MPEG-2, and we want to choose this 1080p. Now 1080p, these are the dimensions. 1080 are the number of pixels that are going up and down the frame. Now P means that it's a progressive frame, meaning you see the entire picture at one time. So we're going to go ahead and choose Canon XF 1080p, and we're going to choose it at 24 frames per second. All right, now keep in mind, in the digital world, it's not really 24 frames a second. It's really 23976. So if you see 23976, don't panic. All right, we're going to go ahead and grab this at 24. I would go ahead and give it a name. See how it says sequence name? I would go ahead and say montage, not all caps here, montage, and I would go like 01. You might have different versions of this you want to duplicate and save, so you can go ahead and name it something like that. That way you can decide, tell which one it is. So montage 01, see how because I had timeline selected, it's automatically going to go in there and it's going to open up right here. If it doesn't open up, just double click on it and it should open. Let's go ahead and go File, Save. All right, so we're heading in a really good spot here, good direction. We have our timeline right here, and we have all of our pictures that are loaded in. All right, so what we're going to do is if you double click on this image right here, it will load up and you can actually preview it in your source window, which is awesome. So we're able to see what this picture looks like. You can double click on the next one and see what that picture looks like. Do not click on the actual text, as that will actually change the name of the file. I don't want you to change the name of the file. All right, I'm going to be fully honest with you. You're going to get very confused. So what you can actually do, if you're really into this and want to name something or give it information, you can actually scroll over here and snag this other column. I'm going to snag description, and I'm going to have description come over here. So I could actually say wide shot, right? I just say wide. Next one, right? Actually, this one's a wide shot too. This one right here, right? So you could say arch, right? You could actually go ahead and give yourself some descriptions. That way you would know what is what, but do not change the actual name of the file, okay? So you're going to double click on the actual icon itself and it will load up. All right, say we want to go ahead and have this wide shot be our first picture. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to double click on it. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and just click right here, and I'm going to click and drag. See how it makes a little fist? I'm going to go ahead and click and drag, and I'm going to put it right here on the timeline. Now it's really small. I'm going to go ahead and if I click here, I can actually zoom in. Alrighty, so if we go ahead and we can either hit play right here, right? Or you can hit the space bar. It's up to you. Alright, so the space bar will do the same thing. Now, first thing you're going to notice is that our picture doesn't look the same. Look at how zoomed in this is, right? Really zoomed in. First thing you need to do is click on the picture, and we need to zoom out. So we're going to go actually in, we're going to create an effect. So if you go to Effects Controls, we can actually go ahead and click on this scale option and zoom out. All right, so that's all that's happening right now. Is you have a picture that is 6,000 pixels. It's 6,000 pixels wide and 3,000 pixels tall, probably, 4,000 pixels tall. So your frame is only 1,080. So you have to zoom out. All right, so just keeping that in mind. So that's how we're going to do that. Notice how if you're not clicked on the clip, you can affect that scale. So remember the number 37 is going to be awesome. Okay, let's go ahead and say we want to load up another picture. It doesn't matter what it is. I'm just going and dragging them in order for the sake of today. Now notice when I'm over it, see how much more zoomed in it is? We're just going to go up here, Effects Controls 37. All right, easy enough. Now remember, you have to have that clip selected in order to impact it. All right, so let's go ahead, let's zoom out just a little bit. All right, so I already have 2 clips on my timeline. Say I wanted to just randomly go in and select another clip, I can go ahead and do that. I can go ahead and grab another clip right here. That's pretty cool. And then we'll snag this one right here. So you're going to take a lot of time to decide the order of these, all right? But so say you have all these different clips, you should be able to go ahead and if you were to have applied the effect, so if we have our scale here set to 37, what you can actually do is right click on this clip and you can actually copy the clip, because then what we're going to do is we're going to paste those attributes to those 3 other clips. So let's go ahead and hit copy. We're going to copy the one we like. And then you are going to select, if you just click up here and drag, you're going to select these 3 and we're going to paste attributes. So this is a beautiful thing. What we're going to do is we're going to paste these scale attributes, all right? And we just want to apply the scale. So I think it's motion. All right, so let's see if that applies it for us. We're going to go ahead and click OK. And now they are all the same. All right, so that's one way you can kind of do it all at once. without having to go in and like click 37, click 37. All right. Now let's get into the actual editing process. So the different tools that you have access to in your tool palette. So now that we have some of our clips over here, let's go ahead and begin to do some of our actual editing work here. So one tool you have access to start off with is the razor tool. Now I'm going to go ahead and zoom in here. Oops, sorry, wrong direction. Zoom in. We've been using the arrow tool or the selection tool in order to click on our clips. So we're going to switch and use the razor tool in order to cut our clips. So you can decide how long you want a clip to last for. So I'm going to go ahead and say I want this opening shot here. I actually don't want it to be very long. Right? I want to go ahead and say it is only that long. I'm going to click back into my arrow tool, click on this, and then I'm going to hit delete on my keyboard. All right. Now what you could do is you can then go zoom out, go like this, move everybody else up. Okay. You can definitely do that, but I want to show you another option too. Okay. So if you are going to go in here and you are going to click and you're like, I don't want this one to last that long either, let's have it last about this long. What you can actually do is we can use this awesome ripple tool. And what you can do is it creates this little yellow claw and bracket, and you are going to click on the intersection point and you are just going to go ahead and drag that section to your playhead. Now what you'll notice is that everything is automatically caught up. Alright, so it's a really cool tool that you should start to work with pretty early on. So it's this yellow bracket, and you can actually make your clips longer or shorter, and it just takes a little practice to play with that. Alright, so that is called the ripple edit tool. Alright, so ripple edit tool. Okay, so you can use the razor tool and or the ripple edit tool. Another really cool option is the rolling edit tool. So say you just want to shift this a little bit so that this one's a little shorter and this one's a little longer. You can actually go on the intersection point and you can just roll this. There's no change in the overall time of your film. It's just going to change exactly when the edit will occur. So that's actually the roll tool. Alright, let's go back to our arrow tool for just a second. Now, there is another way you can get your clip onto the timeline, and this is going to come in handy when you're actually working with video files specifically. So let's go ahead and find a new photograph, and I already have that one, so let's go all the way down here. So we're going to go ahead and take a new photograph. Now notice how there's a highlighted section here with this gray and then there's a black section. We can actually change the duration of how long our clip is before it ever comes into the timeline. So you can see right here this number right here is changing, and that tells me how long this clip is. Alright, so I can actually set how long I want that clip to be. It's going to last for 3 seconds. I'm going to go ahead and say I only want that to last for 1 second. Alright, so we're going to go ahead and I'm going to make my in and out. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to mark my in. Alright, say I want the clip to start right here. Mark in, and then I'm going to go down and I'm going to go ahead and mark my out. So see, you're able to pre-edit this clip before it ever comes into the timeline. Go ahead and drag it, and now we have a clip that is exactly 1 second. Alright, it is exactly 1 second. So for some of you who are working in terms of metric montage, where you're only focused on the length of time, that is one way that you can do that. Alright, so let's go ahead and find another clip here. Let's go and do the exact same thing. Let's go ahead and mark our in. We'll go exactly 1 second ahead and mark our out. And it's 1 second and 1 frame. So let's go ahead and do this. There we go. And so now we can create this really cool metric rhythm. So if you were to keep going, right, let's do this one more time. We'll mark our in. We'll go to what I think is about a second. Oops, sorry guys. We'll go to what I believe is about a second. Okay, we'll mark, let's do this right here. Mark it in. Go ahead. Mark it out. It's going to tell me it's a little too long here. Let's see. Alright, so say you're having trouble like I am. Alright, marking out. So it's 2 seconds. Alright, I think I'm too zoomed out. Yeah, so it's a matter of being zoomed in or not. Alright, so it's, let's see, let's go right here. Marking out. Okay, then you can go back 1 frame and now will be exactly a second. So say this process is really frustrating to you and you're just like not feeling it. You're just not feeling it. You can go ahead and drag your clips into the timeline and say you want to do metric montage, okay? You can actually select however many clips you want to have last at 1 second. You can right click on it and you can actually go down here to, there's a speed duration option. So with all those clips selected, all of them are actually going to be placed at this exact same duration. All right, so we are going to go ahead and it should let us choose our duration. So 3 equals the number of seconds, 7 is a number of frames. So I want it to be exactly 1 second a piece. Now there's a really cool feature down here that is the ripple edit shifting trailing clips. So what will happen is all these extra clips will be bumped up, so there will be no gaps. So we're going to go ahead and click that. And notice how they all automatically jump to 1 second each. Now let's undo that. So say I don't do it correctly. So say I didn't click on this clip. Let's go back in here. We'll change it to 1 second. And I don't click ripple edit shift. You end up with all these spaces in between. And that can be really annoying. You end up having to go ahead and do ripple delete. And then you're going to have to come here. All right, so you can still make this work. But that ripple, ripple edit, those trailing clips is a really cool feature. All right, now these clips are zoomed in again, so let's go ahead and right click, paste our attributes, and we're going to do our scale motion again, and awesome. So that's kind of a really basic introduction to how you can do some really basic editing. All right, we will get into more. One thing I can also teach you quickly is if you go ahead and wherever your playhead is, so wherever this blue line here is actually called the playhead, so wherever this is actually where you're going to insert a clip. So let's go ahead and find a new clip. I just put that one in. A new clip that is already put in. Alright, so say we want to put this clip in. You can actually click and drag on it, and instead of putting it on the timeline, you can actually come up here and you have some different options. So you can actually insert it and it will go into the timeline just like we've been putting it in. Alright, so it actually will now be, let me zoom out for a second. It will now be right here in your timeline. Let's go ahead, we'll go to Effects Controls, 37, and boom. There you go. Now say you want to have a clip right in the middle, right? Say you have this shot and then the pastry and then you want something in the middle and then you still want that pastry. Wherever you put that playhead is where you're going to have a file interject. So say we want, that's kind of odd, say we want to have, we could decide we want to jump to the inside of that pastry shop. I'm not sure if this is exactly it or not, but we're going to go ahead and now if we take this clip, if we insert it, it's going to just extend the whole thing down, right? Notice how everything down here shifts. All right, I'll do that again. Everything down here is going to shift, okay? But if you go ahead and say I want to mark an in and then go for a second, okay, and go ahead and mark it out, and I'll go back 2 frames, work it out. Say I want to actually just overlay this right on top of it. Watch what happens. Okay, it's actually going to go ahead and insert this really cool overlay. So I can now hit play. We'll cut to this other shot and then cut back. So again, we need to make sure that we are at the right size, 37. Okay. And now we have this shot where you have this here, pastry place, inside, outside, right? I don't know that I would go for that artistically, but I wanted to show you the option of how to overlay something like this on a second track. All right? Now, say you want to go ahead and get rid of one of these sections. You can go ahead and click on this and actually delete it. Okay, so you can just hit delete on your keyboard, but you can also do something really cool, which is you can actually lift and or extract it. So just like we were able to mark our in and our out, we can actually, right over here in our source window, we can actually do that on our timeline too. So let's go ahead and find the beginning of our shot. We can go in, then we can go to the end of our frame, and we can mark our out. So now what we can do is we can actually extract or get rid of whatever is right here. Now, in order to do this, it can be a little bit complicated because right now we don't know the key command for that because it's not shown right here. So you can't even find it in this drop-down menu. So in order to extract, you need to find a couple of these other these buttons that are in a slightly different window. So it's not going to be down here in your timeline window. It's going to be up here. So what we can do is we want to go ahead and let's lift. Notice what happens. It actually deletes something we don't want it to delete. So let's go edit, undo. So notice I'm lifting something out of here, and if I'll do that again for you. Watch what happens. That lower portion is removed. So edit, undo. The reason that lower portion is removed is because we have all these tracks selected. So if you unselect or deselect these tracks, it's only going to lift the section that you have selected. All right, so let's go ahead and try and lift this, and now we can actually delete that exact clip that we wanted to get rid of. So let's undo that. Okay, so it's all about which tracks you have turned on. If we have both of these turned on and we lift, suddenly they're both gone. All right, so lifting can kind of be a cool tool. Another really cool tool is actually the extract tool, which will shift everything in the timeline up this direction. So if we go ahead and hit extract, notice how the gap is now filled in. So one more time. If we hit lift, it leaves a hole. Okay, undo. If we hit extract, that hole and that gap are filled in. All right, so these are just some really helpful ways for you to edit quickly without having to get bogged down with this razor tool right here. All right, so sometimes students are trying to, click and then they try to zoom in, they figure out, okay, I want this cut here, okay, I cut it, now I take my arrow tool, take the arrow tool, now I have to zoom out, okay, now I have to go like this, okay, but now I need to zoom back in because I don't know where it's going to go, and there you go. So all those steps just in order to make one slight shift, okay? So just keeping that in mind, I know that these might be a little overwhelming at first, but you really do need to do some experimentation. Now, some of you will be able to use transitions on your project. I am going to limit you to the types of transitions you can use. If you go right here to your double arrow, right, this is a part of your project window right down here. It'll say project, it might say media browser. You're going to click into these double arrows. And if this effects is not a choice for you, right, I'm going to go ahead and click effects. But if it's not a choice for you, you want to go up to window and just make sure that effects is clicked. Okay, let's go into effects and we're going to go into video transitions, and you're not able to use any of these other ones. All I'm going to let you use are these dissolves. So you can take a dissolve. I just want you to use the cross dissolve for now. You could do a dip to black. I really don't want you to use dip to white or any of these others. I just want you to use the cross dissolve or a dip to black. They're basically the same. So we're going to go cross dissolve. Now, when you're taking an effect, you're going to click on it and you're going to drag it to an intersection point between two clips. All right, so I'm going to zoom in actually in order for you to be able to see this a little bit better. So say I want to zoom, let's zoom into the beginning of our section here. And all right, so we are going to go ahead and we want to fade in. So let's go ahead and drag our cross dissolve right to the beginning here, and it will highlight in a color. Now you can see there is actually a cross dissolve applied. You can go ahead and scrub through and you can see, okay, that nicely fades in. If you want that fade to be shorter or longer, all you have to do is go to the end of that fade and you can adjust it right here. So you can go ahead and hit the space bar and it will fade in really quickly. If you want it to last for a really long time and have a really slow fade, you can go ahead and make it longer and it will slowly fade in. All right, so that is what you're able to do in terms of transitions. Say you don't want this transition, all you're going to do is you're going to click on cross dissolve and you can hit delete. All right, so that's what you are working with here. All right, so those are your basic effects. Now I'm actually going to go ahead and put that cross dissolve back on here. All right, now we say you have your whole timeline and this is only 14 seconds, so yours will be substantially longer than mine. Say you are ready to go ahead and put a title on your project. Let's go back to our project window. We're going to go ahead and close up our picture folder. We can even close up our timelines, and we're going to go ahead and click on titles. So click on titles, and I'm a saveaholic, so let's go ahead and file save. We are going to go into titles, and then we are going to go into File, New, and I want to make sure that you're using a legacy title. Some of you will see that there is this cool title tool down here, but it can be very complicated to use. Just getting started, I want you to go File, New, Legacy Title. And remember, you have this titles bin selected, which means that this title will actually go into that bin. So we're going to go File, New, Legacy Title. Okay, go ahead and name your title. If you have a bunch of titles in here that are title 01, 09, title 29, you have no idea which ones those are. So let's go ahead and give it a title. So I'm going to say Postcard from a City. All right, it is the correct width and height. It is the correct time base, 23.976, and we're going to go ahead and click OK. Now this window will pop up, and this is actually the title tool. So you can actually click on the corner and make it larger. Sometimes you'll open it and it'll be microscopic. So go ahead and drag that corner and make it larger. If any of these tools are not turned on for you, by the way, go again to right up in here, and you can actually go in. There should be one in here for titles. I always forget where it is, so let's check real quick. So let's see here. I think these are all a part of, there's one master window here, right? So usually Program Monitor, Legacy Title Designer. So that's the one we're in right now. So the only question becomes like legacy title properties, legacy title styles. So that's where I get a little confused how to make sure these are all turned on. All right, so if those are not open for you, just come in here and try and see if you can find any of these extensions, okay? All right, so let's go ahead and start designing our title. Your default is to have the type tool. That's the tool that will start. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click and I'm going to drag a text box. Now, if you don't do this and you just make a title and you just click, you have no control over the size of that box, all right? In order to modify and adjust, you're going to end up squeezing or extending or making your font distorted, right? And that is not what you want to do. You don't want your font to look like that. So I say delete that. You should always, when you're using the title tool, always click and drag and make yourself a box. So I will say postcard. Oh no, now I've gotten myself into this wormhole. All right, I'm going to close this. I'm actually going to go ahead and delete this. So that's why it gets dangerous. So I'm going to delete it and start fresh. New, let's go legacy title, and I'm going to call it postcard. Postcard. All right. So that's why you don't want to do it. Let's hopefully say it's defaulting and we'll go back to normal here. Cross your fingers. Postcard from a city. All right, if you select it all, right, you select all your text, you can actually change your font up here. You can just choose something. Please choose something you like. I'm just going to choose it quickly. You can go ahead and select it all again. You can change the size of your font to make it slightly larger if you want to. You can then center it in your actual window if that's helpful for you. And then you can add a lot of adjustments. So you could add a drop shadow if you wanted to. If you had multiple lines, so if you did it like this, postcard from yeah, we'll just do 2 lines. You could actually change the leading in between each of your lines, so you could adjust how close they are. And then also you can adjust the kerning, which is how much space is between each letter. All right, so some of you might be really interested in something like that. All right, so there's a lot you can play with here, and I would love for you to take a look at it. You can go ahead, and one of the first things people always ask me is how to add a drop shadow, and it just involves clicking on this shadow box and then going ahead and adjusting the size. So you can actually see that shadow changing in the text, and you can change the size of the shadow, the distance, and also the color of it. All right, so I actually want this to be up here, 1 line. And I'm going to come in and grab my arrow tool. Now I can adjust the size of my box however I want to. And I'm going to have it come down here and be, right, I want to make sure it's right in the center. So I'm going to go here and here. All right, and now I can adjust it up and down knowing it will be in the center. All right, postcard from a city. I really like that. All right, I might even actually just adjust it up a little bit. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and we're going to go File, Save. And we're going to click X out of this. Now, notice how it is in my titles bin. It should be for you. You're going to click on this and you are going to drag it into the timeline. If you drag it right on top of your already existing content in video 1, video track 1 here, it's going to overwrite it and it's going to erase everything. And now, oh, that's no good. Okay, so you need to go ahead and drag it up here into V2, the second video track. All right. Now you'll see that it's playing over the top of your images, which is awesome. Now I don't really want it to last that long, so I'm going to go ahead and trim it. And I'm going to go ahead and go into Effects, Cross Dissolve, and I'm going to put a title dissolve on it in a kind of a cool way. So let's go back and play it. So Postcard from a City comes in pretty quick, and then it shifts. Now say I want this to last a little longer. Let's go ahead and Ripple Edit tool. Let's go ahead and make this one longer. Shifts everything down. And then I'm going to go ahead and grab my regular trim tool. And there you go. Postcard from a City. Have a minute to process it, and then it's gone. Right? And then we go into the rhythm. And I want you to find a rhythm. Don't make all of it metric, or you can if you want to. Right? Trying to figure out what the pacing, what story you're trying to tell us about this particular place. All right, so that is pretty simple here. The one thing I didn't do is explain to you how to edit your title. So once you make a title, you can actually go back in here to your project window. You can double click on your title and then you can go ahead and edit it. So if you want to, you could go ahead and select all, and you can actually change the color. I really like black and white, but that's just me. Some people might really want a pop of color in here. So I think that's a little hard to read in this particular image. You could choose something that were a different color, all right? So hit save, exit out of it, and it will actually update your title right here. All right, so that is what we are working on just to get started here. If you have any particular questions, just let me know. I think the only piece that we'll make sure to cover, but I may even make a separate tutorial for, is how to export your video. I can give you a quick little demo right now, so when you are done, you know exactly how to turn your file in and upload it. So if you go back down here into Finder, all right, notice how our autosave is here, which is awesome. All right, so we have our project our folder right here. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go File, New Folder, and I'm going to make a folder for exports. So that way I know exactly where I'm saving my project to. So I'm going to go back into Premiere. I'm going to go File. Right, you want to make sure your timeline is selected. So the final timeline that you want is selected. So when you're done, you are going to go File, and you are going to Export Media. All right, so we're exporting media. Now, if you come in here, I'm going to cancel out of that. If you say you have this selected, you go File, Export Media. Let's see if it still works. Right? It says no preview is available. Right? It doesn't have the exact timeline that you want to export. You need to make sure you actually have the timeline selected. All right? Some people get tripped up with that error. So we'll go Export Media, and for some reason it's not giving us a preview, which is really strange. All right, so it should give you a way to oh, I know why, because it's set to MP3. The last project we were working on was an MP3. Go ahead and come up here, I apologize, go to Format and go to H.264 right here. This is what we're going to export, and now it's going to give you a preview. I apologize. So you can scrub through and just make sure it is the correct timeline. All right, make sure that your clip actually, your sequence here is actually going to end where you want it to. If you want it to end somewhere different, you can modify this and trim it up. Okay, but that's what you are working on here. We usually want our sequence into out, or you could do the entire sequence. Okay, we're going to go ahead and make sure our format is H.264. We're going to go into our presets, and you want to make sure that it is set to high quality 1080p. So high quality 1080p right here. That's going to make sure that our video is 1080 pixels tall, just like all of our edited clips. And then the last thing you need to make sure here, actually there are a couple different things. One thing we want to do is we want to go into output name. So we're going to go ahead and change our output name. It says Montage 01 right now. I'm going to go ahead and say it's in my picture editing workshop folder. It's in exports, and you can call it Montage 1 if you want to. You can also call it Postcard from a city, your name. Okay, and go ahead and click OK. All right, now you know that it's in the right folder and it has a name you're going to recognize. Now, because we don't have any audio in here, we have no audio. We don't need to export any audio. We're just going to export the video only. So go ahead and uncheck that. Make sure with the next project you export that you update that and go ahead and recheck it again. All right, but for this one, let's go ahead and export just our video. Right? A lot of students get confused and they hit this Q right here. You are going to actually hit export. All right, we're hitting export. So let's go to our Finder window, and you can actually see that it is compressing our file and it is in process. So as soon as this blue bar makes it all the way across, that MOV file, MP4 file will pop up, and you will be ready to upload that to Wix directly. You can upload it to Vimeo and then embed the code. You can upload that to YouTube and then embed the code. It is totally up to you. All right, and then there's one more piece I want to show you for submitting your project, and then we'll be all set. So I'm exporting just a 14-second clip here. You all will be exporting something larger. So it'll probably take just a little bit longer. So I have my exported clip here, right? And it exports, and it says postcard from a city, your name. So let's double click on it. Always watch through it to make sure that it exported the way that you want it to. Awesome, it looks good. All right, so that is your final version. Do not submit this PROJ file. I can't open that. That's just a Premiere project file. That's for you, that's your working file. I will only be able to see this MP4 file. All right, so just making sure that you know that. You cannot submit this. I won't be able to open it. No one will be able to see it. So you have to submit this MP4. Last step when you are done here is you are going to make sure we can see your entire timeline. You can actually even extend this up, you can extend this over, right, to make sure that we can see enough of your timeline. Then what you are going to do is you are going to take a screenshot. And if you have a PC, I apologize, I don't know how to take a screenshot on a PC. If you have a Mac, you're going to go ahead and click Command Shift, and then you can press the number 3. Right, and it will take a screenshot of your entire screen. We go back here, we go to desktop, and now it has a screenshot of my entire desktop. Okay, I need to see this in order to make sure that I can see all your edits in here, and this actually really helps me to understand your thinking and your thought process, and also to make sure you're organizing your timeline in the correct way. So you're going to go ahead and rename this and say this is postcard from a city, screenshot, or you could do the timeline, and then your name. All right, and now that is what you are going to upload for me. So you're going to go to the internet, and you're going to go to my website. You're going to go to I am Kate Brown. All right, and this might look a little bit different every semester, so I apologize if there are any adjustments. You're going to go to BU FT201. You're going to go to projects, and I have for you a bunch of different things here where you can submit your work, but you're going to go to Photo Montage Project, and you're going to click Submit Your Photo Montage. So once your project is uploaded on your website, you are going to go in and fill out this form. You're going to say your first name, my first name, last name, and my project is uploaded on my website with a description and is ready for grading. Yes, it is. All right, mine is not currently, but you are only going to submit this when you are ready for me to grade it. You're going to go ahead and take a screenshot of your timeline in Adobe Premiere Pro. You're going to add file, and you are going to go ahead and go to that screenshot, and you are going to upload this screenshot for me. I can then go through as I'm grading your project and actually see your thought process and see that original timeline, which is really super cool. So you're going to go ahead and hit submit. It will say, thank you very much, your project has been submitted, and you are all set. Okay, so to exit out of here, we're just going to go File, Save, make sure everything is saved up, and you are going to go ahead and quit out of Premiere. All right, now you can, once Premiere is quit, you can go ahead and close out of here. All right, I have to hold the cue, okay. You can now go ahead and, if you want to, you can go ahead and dump this screenshot if you want to, and you can also go ahead and just eject your hard drive. All right, and now you are all set to work on a different project. All right, so if you have any questions, please let me know. and then there may be some additional tutorials kind of breaking some of this up for you.